Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. Today I just want to give this quick introduction to explain the video that I'm going to make. It's going to be a Nuxt.js SSR application that I'm going to launch on Heroku or Now. It's going to just cover the basics of how to build and deploy your Nuxt.js SSR application, and because it's Valentine's, we're going to make it a little bit Valentine's themey. But also I want to let the watchers and the subscribers know that I'm working on a course that is going to be a few videos long. The course is going to cover Node Express, MongoDB, and EJS, a full stack application, and we're gonna build a blog. And I really want to make these videos as explanatory as possible, explain everything in detail, to teach the beginner / intermediate developer, web developer, how to build something on the full stack. Write your server-side code, and obviously the HTML, CSS templates. I also just want to let you know that I'm giving this course for free, and all the videos I make obviously is for free. And the way you can support me to help me keep making these videos is to just leave a like or subscribe or share the video. And if you really want to support me, you can actually go to my page that I'm going to link here, and you can actually make a donation. Doesn't have to be a big donation or anything. I really appreciate every bit I get, because I use that money to be able to make these videos. So thank you to all the current subscribers. I know we're not a lot, and I just wanted to show you me face so that you can actually see who you're watching. And I really appreciate every view and click that you guys give me. So let's jump into the project. So let's get started. Welcome to the project. We'll just immediately jump into it. I haven't prepared any code for this, so I'm going to write everything from the top of my head. And if I get stuck a little bit, I will probably edit out some parts, but I also kind of want to do it that way so that you guys can see what the way that I develop and think, process information as I go along. So first things first, you are going to want to have Node installed on your system. So you can check if you do by typing node version, and I have the latest release installed. If you don't, you can just go to nodejs.org in your browser and download the latest version and install it on your computer. Or if you have Linux or Mac, you can use Node Version Manager to install that. The reason I want to have the latest version is because it has a few versions before the latest version. They have a thing called npx. So what npx does, or what we're going to use it for today, is to just use a tool, a CLI tool, but only use it once to create a Nuxt project. So usually when we want to use a CLI tool, we want to do something like npm install and then say -g, and then the tool we're going to use today is called create-nuxt-app, not Nuxt, nuxt-app. And what this will do is it'll install this create-nuxt-app command on our computer globally, and when we use it, we can just type that in and specify our app name and then create the app. But I don't really want that tool to be installed globally, so what you can do in that case is just use npx and do create-nuxt-app and then the app name, and I'm going to call it Valentines quotes. And just to explain the app a little bit, what we have here is a fully server-side rendered app, which has both a server exposed and the client in one file. The cool thing about the SSR is that we don't really need to care about managing both these things, because Nuxt sort of abstracts that for us. We can just write plain JavaScript Nuxt code and follow the documentation without having to know how to manage our Express server or how to set up routes, etc., because Nuxt will do that out of the box. It will be necessary to check out the documentation, because there are things that you need to know, like the difference between data and async data, difference between fetch and data, and their store, and how to call code on the server side before rendering the client side, and just how to think about it all. So we'll cover some of those topics as we build, but the point of today's video is just to show you how to get a quick app built out there, and then just put it up on some hosting tool. And today we'll be using Now to do that, and I'll show you how to use Now. So let's get started. So once we run the npx create-nuxt-app command, we'll get a few questions. The project name, you can decide that. I'll just leave it as Valentines quotes, and just create a new description, something like get cute, or let's say get lovable quotes. And I'm going to use Express, but it isn't really that important to know if you want to use some sort of framework. I know a lot about Express and how to use it, so in case there is some sort of situation where I want to access the Express server, then I can just go into that code. So I'll be using Express, and I don't want the PWA support for now. I don't want the linten formatter because it screams at you. I have Prettier in my code editor, so I'll just use Axios to make the requests. Press enter, and for this one we won't use any framework, and we won't write any tests, and we want to make sure that we render our application in universal mode, because this will allow us to take advantage of the server side. So let me just install this, and then we need to change our author name. I'm going to change that to my GitHub username, and I want to use npm, and let this install. So before we get started with the code, guys, I just want to introduce you to this free API. https favqs.com/API is the URL you'll visit. Just create a account. It's really quick. You just create a username and a password, and everything is free. This is just so that you can be authorized to get user details and certain types of favorite quotes, etc. So what we're going to do with this API is we're going to request some quotes from it and plug it into our application on the server side, and then send it to our client. And the endpoint we want to be looking at is the list quotes, and that is /API/quotes, and we want to add some parameters to the URL. And I think the best approach would be to get the quotes from this endpoint, and the filter should be love, because this is Valentine's Day, and type tag. So it's going to give us all the quotes that people created that has the tag love. So let's maybe try that in the let me just see if I have curl. Yeah, so let's just call that. Oh, by the way, after the application installed, we have some commands to run, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I'm just going to clear the screen, and I'm going to call that URL that's over here. So copy that and paste that in there, and then we want to filter for love instead of funny, because this is Valentine's Day. So let's call that, check the response, and we don't have a token. So that is because we have to generate an API token. The way we're going to do that is we'll go to our account. I think it's at the bottom. I did struggle to find this the first time. So right at the bottom of the page, it'll say my API keys, and I'm going to expose this to you in the video, but don't worry. After the video was created, I simply deleted the API key, so it doesn't exist anymore. This is my key. I think to use it in the request, we can check out some of the endpoints. So I found the parameters to put in there. I'm going to click that. That's my token, and we'll do the endpoint, which was https / I think it was favqs and .com/API/quotes, and then we had the filter parameter, and we wanted to filter for love, and we also wanted to make that type a tag. So type equals tag, and then what we want to do is we want to set a header parameter authorization. So example, this is how you would set a authorization token. So let's go back and do space and then -h capital and then single quotes, and in the single quotes we'll do authorization, and then we'll say colon and then token with a capital T, and then token equals with double with the double quotation marks, and then add that token in there that I have down here. So let's just cut that out. Let's just delete that. Not sure how to copy paste in the terminal. Always confusing between Linux and Windows and Mac. So let's just add the token there. I think now I can just right click. Yes. So this should authorize me to get these quotes. So let's see what happens. Okay, so the system cannot find the file specified. Error occurred while processing tag. System cannot find file system. The file name directory volume is syntax is incorrect. So let's have a look at the syntax. So this should be a formatting issue. The curl command, let's add the header first, and instead of single quotes we'll do double quotes, and we'll add the authorization exactly the same. Token with a capital T, make sure the spelling is correct. Token equals, and instead of adding those extra apostrophes, I might just leave it without the quotation mark. So let's find my API key again. I left it in the it's down here, and then just copy that. Let's select, copy, and then right click here. So I'm just gonna leave it in the quotation marks like that with no single quotes around the key, and then after that I will put in the endpoint that we want to hit, and what we want is the this one with the filter and the type. So let's do filter equals, so copy that and then paste it here, and instead of funny we want love, so we'll do LOVE and then try that, and there we go. We've got a bunch of data. So this is pretty much unreadable because we aren't formatting this JSON, but in the application we'll have a better look at it. So the response looks like it gives a object, and it gives the number of the page that we're on with the quotes, and it's tells us if we're at the last page. So this could be useful for something like recursion, where we would just keep adding pages until last page equals true and then stop. But the data that we want is this quotes, and we can see a quote as an ID, and we don't really care about this dialog, private, we don't care. Tags is what we searched for, so it should sort of have love in there somewhere, but I can't really see it. So we'll see the author is Sun Tzu, and the body is treat your men as you would your own beloved sons, and they will follow into the deepest valley. So that's sort of love related, and I guess all of these will just be related to love, like heaven has no rage like love to hate returned, nor hell a fury like a woman scorned. So I don't really understand what that means, but it sounds cool, so we'll use that. So okay, let's quit playing with this API and go into the code and start building our Nuxt application. I'm going to clear my screen here, and then I'll cd into the application that we created, and I think I called it, let's just do a ls. There's going to be a bunch of projects. So the app was called Valentines quotes, so I'll just cd into Valentines quotes and then clear this and use VS Code to edit the code. Now that we're in the project, let me increase the screen size or font size for you so that it's easy to see. That should be good. And this is what the npx create-nuxt-app generated for us. It's a lot of folders, and in the future I'll probably do a detailed video explaining what everything in this project does, what it means, where it comes from, where it goes. But today we're just going to build the app and launch it, host it. And just do remember that I have that project coming out on full stack web development, so that's going to be like the foundation of your full stack knowledge. And once you know that, most of these things would make sense because you just really need to know the basics or the foundation, and then you have the tools to go out and teach yourself how to learn frameworks and libraries, because those things pop up all the time, and even experienced developers will not know exactly what's going on without playing with it for a while. They do probably get it a little bit quicker, but they also don't just know it right off the bat. So first of all, let's have a look at the package JSON. What we have is a few scripts. We have dev, build, start, generate, and each of these creates a sort of a different environment and also allows us to do different things. If we run npm run dev, we'll start a development server, and it's going to use nodemon, and it's going to do the server file. So if we have a look at the server file, that is a basic Express app. And the Express app, what it does is it brings in Nuxt, it brings in this consoler package, which basically just helps make the terminal look a bit prettier. And then we bring in the config of the Nuxt application so that we can build that on the server side. And then we'll create a new Nuxt with that config, which is just using the Nuxt constructor to build a new Nuxt application. And then we set some localhost ports, or it's saying either use the host that we on the server or use localhost. And the port is either the port the server provides or the localhost port. Or you can set this to whatever you like. 3000 seems to be okay. It seems to be the standard. And then we just equal that to the nuxt.options.server. So this is sort of destructuring the nuxt.options server. And then all these things, they just we build a new Nuxt application, and then we render that in the middleware of Express, and then we serve that to the client. So every single page that we create here will automatically create a new Nuxt route. So if we create a index.view, then the route that we will be listening on would be the / route. If we create a home page, the route we'll be listening on would be /home, etc. So they configure that for us out of the box, and we really don't need to touch the server code unless we need to do special things. So let's just jump into creating the basic pages that we're going to need and start coding the server and client-side logic. So I'll just get started with the home route. I'll close down this sidebar, and in the home route we have all this boilerplate, and I'm just going to remove that just to have the section, and for now we'll just say hello world so that we have something to look at. And I'll also remove all the default styles. I'll just remove everything in here, and we can probably remove the style tags for now. Remove that, and we don't need this logo component to be imported, and we can remove that, and we can remove this class for now. So let's save that, and let's go look at this routes along. We'll open up the integrated terminal, clear it out, and we'll do npm run development so that we can view this on a development server. So it's going to use nodemon, start up that Express server, build the Nuxt application, and then generate all those routes for us. So the server's listening on localhost 3000, and let's go look at it. Usually when I start prototyping, I'll just open my browser window like this, and I usually have two screens as well to be able to see what's going on. So let me just move this off for now, and then make this screen go to the left side. Just find a spot where I can grab it. There we go. And then increase it a little bit so that you can see what's going on. We can close this down for now. Increase it up to about there, and then slam this one on this side. So that's sort of also like a mobile first approach, where if we design for mobile first, we can tweak the desktop size afterwards. So let's go to localhost 3000, and we'll see our hello world app. It's just the basic route, but how we know that this is being generated on the server side is that we can inspect the source, and then if we skip through all the CSS, we'll see that this section or this HTML over here is being rendered in the DOM, and it's not being programmatically inserted by the Nuxt application. So we can also see here that server rendered equals true and data server rendered equals true. So this is being rendered on our local server. Once we host this up to now, the server will first generate the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, sort of compress all that and minify it, and then send it to the client. And then we can have things like SEO, and we know what's on the page, so crawlers can index our pages. And there's so many benefits to SSR apps that it's just a useful tool to have in your belt. So let's just get this UI on the front end to be a little bit prettier, and for that I'll just create a nav, and in the nav we'll have a tag, and it'll just go to /home, and it will call it Valentines, or let's call it Valaquote. And we can also, just for sake of, we'll just leave it like that, and style this navbar. So we have this a tag now, so now we need to add the styles just to make it look a little bit better. And we actually want to style the entire nav, so we'll just do nav, and we'll do position fixed because we want to keep it on top, and we'll say top 0, right 0, left 0. And then next up we want to give it a bit of a height. Let's just do 56 pixels, save that. And we want to maybe give it a background, Valentine's themed background. And usually Valentine's would be red, but maybe not that shockingly red. We can go for maybe this kind of red. And we can set a box shadow at the bottom. I'll do, I think it's X, Y spread. So let's do X 0, and then Y, I think we'll do 1 pixel, and then we'll do a 3 pixel spread, and we'll make that, then the color would be pink. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, looks alright. Now we just need to style the link. So let's just do nav a, and we'll say color white, and we'll save that for now. Let's remove the line from the text, so we'll do text decoration, and then we'll say none, and we'll also just center that text line, because we don't really have anything in our menu bar, so we can just put it in the center. And then save that. We can, instead of using text align center, actually, because now we sort of display position fix the nav bar, so let's do give it a display flex so that we can align the items inside. So we'll do display flex, and then the a tag in the nav will be able to be flexed. So we can do flex, now we can do align items to align it vertically. Let's just do align items and then center, and then we also want to do justify self. Oh wait, we can actually, let's remove this from here because we will have to use self there. Let's just use it on the parent itself. So let's do paste and justify content, and we'll do center here as well, and save that. So that's nice in the middle, and I kind of want to change the size of the font, so let's just do font size, and we'll do 1.2 em. Save that. It's a bit small still. Let's do 5. Okay, that's fine. And then we'll give it a different, let's just first change the font. No, the font's actually fine. Let's do a different stroke. So let's just do font weight, and then do I think it's lighter. Save that, and that looks okay. We could probably find some cursive font and just do it like that, but it's fine. And to be able to actually route, to use the built-in route instead of a, we can use Nuxt's built-in link thing called Nuxt link. And instead of href, that'll be 2. So this wouldn't refresh the browser completely, and it will keep our store intact, etc. So let's just do Nuxt link on this side as well. Save that. and it will still look the same, because in the end this renders an A tag, but it has special properties to it. So you'll see that this is still an A tag, and it has nuxlink exact active and nuxlink active, and this is so that we can style it once we are on that page or have been on that page, etc. So I've just quickly pulled an image from the internet that we can add on this landing page, and I saved it in the static folder. The reason I did that is because Nuxt, whatever is in the static folder just becomes appended to the URL. So if we want to access this valiquote.jpg, we can just go slash valiquote.jpg. Let's just see if the okay, so it's valiquote with a capital, and then if we access that, we should see the image. And I chose this one because it's kind of a heart with the binary data, so we'll just put that on the landing page over here. So let's do a below the nav, we'll do a main section, and in the main section we'll have an image, and we'll have, before I go on with that, we'll have a before the image actually we'll have a lead, h1 lead, and then below the image we'll have a button. And let's just wrap all of this in a div so that we can style them as a group, and then do that, save that, and then for the source we want to do /valiquote.jpg, and we want to say, so that screen readers have access to it, we can do, I'm just going to close this down and create line breaks here, and do a Valentines heart with binary data, so that those that are less fortunate than us can actually understand what's going on the page. And then that'll be huge at the moment because it is a massive image, and I do recommend compressing your images when you upload stuff to your server and caching them. So let's just set a width for now. We want it to be about 80% of the screen width, and then the height would be managed as an automatic value. Save that. Okay, that's good. And that button is pretty small now, so let's just add some text. Get random love quote. Save that. And then what we want to do is style all of these so that it looks a little bit better. So we're gonna access the main and give it a max height of, no, we'll do a min height of calculation, and then that'll be 100 view height minus the 56 pixel nav bar. And then to center that div, we'll just do display flex as always, and we'll align items to the center, and we will not justify the content, but to yeah, let's save that, see what's up. Okay, so now it's in the center, and to justify content we'll center that as well. Save that, and this should, we have the div now, so let's remove that and then do main div so that we can style these separately. And we'll do a let's just do a margin of 0 auto and give it a width, or we can give it a flex basis because it's in the flex item. Give it a flex basis of, let's say, 90%, and then save that. Let's just align it with text align. Yeah, that's fine. So the reason the flex basis and the margin 0 auto might not work is because the items inside will all need to be margin 0 autoed, and I could use display flex on that as well, but it's not necessary because there's only 3 items and they'll always be in the middle of the page. So let's just style the items in there a little bit. Give the h1 some styles. First of all, increase the font size. we'll do a 3M, and we'll do a I don't like these bold fonts. Let's just do font weight and then lighter. Save. That just looks a little bit better to me. And instead of lead, let's just change the text with spoil your loved one with a random balance, or with a random quote. Like, that is the best Valentine's gift you could give someone, but oh well. And for that we'll have to do, so this is probably already text align center, so that'll be fine. We can, to make sure, we can do text, because it probably is inheriting, but we'll do text align center to see what happens. Okay, yeah, so it is inheriting, and that's fine. But I do want to create some spacing, so we can do margin top and bottom of maybe, let's say, 10 pixels, left and right of, let's do 0. Save that. Maybe a little bit more. Let's do 20. That looks fine. And then we could target the image. It looks fine. I think we'll leave it like that. We could probably use some sort of crop or radius or something to make it a little bit rounder. So maybe let's give it a rounder edges. Main div and then image, and then we'll do a border radius, and the border radius will be just a little bit of rounding. So that let's do maybe a little bit more, 10 pixels, and then we can maybe give it a shadow just to give it life, animate it a little bit, and we can say box shadow 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 3 pixel, and we'll do RGBA and 0, 0, 0, and 0.3. So what this does, it sets red, green, blue, and alpha, so all black, and then give it a bit of transparency. Save that, and you'll see it has picked up from the screen just a little bit, not too much to make your eyes bleed, but enough so that it stands out from the page. And it's the same with the nav bar. There's just a little bit of a pink shadow to make it seem 3D. And finally, we want to style the button. So let's do main, and then we'll do div and button, and we want to give it a background of, let's give it the same red as the nav bar, see if it stands out, see if there's some contrast. Okay, still looks ugly. We'll remove the border, 0, and we'll give it a lot of padding. Let's do 1.5 EM. Okay, and we need the color to be visible. Black on red does not work always. Save that, and we want the font size to increase as well. So let's do font size 1.3 EM. Then the padding can go down a little bit. Okay, so we want to create a margin on this as well. We'll do margin top, and we'll make it the same amount. I think it was 15 pixels or 20. Yeah, it was 20 pixels. Just to keep that consistency, we'll do 20 pixels again, so everything is kind of evenly spaced, and we'll do the same. And to make it seem a little bit more animated, we'll do some hover styles. So let's just do this, Control C, and then V, and then on hover. We want it to sort of scale, and we have to say transform. What I wanted to do is grow a little bit, so I'm going to say scale, and the current scale plus 0.15, and then I think 0.15 is just the amount I always use, because 0.1 sometimes feels a little bit too much. And then we can also do a cursor, make the cursor change a little bit so that it actually looks like a link. Save that. So Now you can see the button grows and it kind of animates and makes it clickable for us, but it's a little bit too fast. So let's I think we need to set the transition on the before the item. So we'll do transition and we'll listen for scale, and we want to do that over, I think let's do well, let's just transition all, and we'll do that over 500 milliseconds, and then we want to do ease in out. Save that, see if that looks a bit better. Yeah, that looks a bit better. It's too big in my opinion still. Should just be a little bit of a transform. So the text is blurring when that happens, and I don't know if I like that. So let's just make it quicker so that the text doesn't seem to blur that long. Okay, so that looks a bit better. And then when we click that, what we want to do is we want to first, when the page gets generated, we want to insert all those quotes into our store, so that we only need to make that request once on the server side, inject it into the store, send it to the client side so that we have all that data, and now we can just play around with that data. We can get a random quote and then go to a new page with something like the quote ID, and then the ID would be sort of a dynamic ID. So it doesn't matter what ID we go to, we'll render a page, but based on that ID, we'll fetch a specific quote out of our store. So a random quote, we can just generate a random ID, or find any quote in the store and just plug that ID in. So let's jump into doing that. The first piece of logic that I want to create is actually just first instantiate the store. And Nuxt.js seems to have changed the way the store creates. So apparently we can just export state and export mutations and getters and stuff like that. And if you don't know what that is, I suggest you go read up on Vuex plus Nuxt. But I'm going to test it. I don't know if it's true, but let's just test it. I think the syntax is export const, and then we'll do state. And the state is just all the data that we want to keep by name. And state would be equal to a function that returns an object. And this object will have different properties. So we'll say that we have a quotes property. And for now, it will just be, oh, but to return an array, I mean an object with the arrow function, we have to do this. And then we can do this. And then the quotes would be an array, and we'll just set some dummy data for now. ID, body, quote of the day, and then the author maybe. I don't know what the object looks like. We'll inspect that with Axios. So the author would be Jon Snow. And then let me just wrap all of this. Oops, that's a bit too small. Let me wrap it with, what is the command? I think it's, I changed it, yeah, Alt 0. So the command to wrap your code is usually Alt and Z, but I changed it to Alt and 0. And then save that. Oh, there's an object, so we don't need that. And then we want to export the getters as well. And the getters would be equal to a normal object. And we would say that we want the quotes, and the quotes is equal to a function that takes state as a parameter, and then it will return state.quotes. So this is just a way for us to get our quotes without having to play with the state directly. So then we want to be able to mutate state, and I guess we can just set, let's just test this out for now. Let's see if it works before we write too much code. Let's save that and then go to our home page, index.view, and minimize that. And we'll sort of, let's go to export default, and we'll import the Axios library. Axios from Axios. And then we can do mounted. So when this app is mounted, we want to, and this has to be a function. When this app is mounted, we want to console.log this dot state just to see if it has been created, and we have to add that $sign. Let's just log the state, save that, and reload, inspect, and look at the console. Undefined, so it doesn't look like our state is being generated. Maybe we need to restart the server because maybe the hot reload didn't pick it up. So let's just test that before diving into the docs to find out how to actually set state. So to restart, I'm just going to do yes, clear, npm run dev. Let's have a look at this. There is an issue with our getters, but because we didn't get those logs before, it seems that the state wasn't instantiated. So let's go to this, and this shouldn't be an equal sign. This should be a colon because this is an object. Save that, and let's see if we have any errors. And it compiled successfully. Reload this, and we still get undefined. So it would seem that let's just check the Nuxt object and inspect that. You could download the Vue dev tools, but I don't have it at the moment. So we do have store. I guess maybe, oh yes, we're not supposed to look for the state, we're supposed to look for the store, and I was doing this dot state, sorry. So let's do the store, and then you can do dot state and save that, and then we could look at the console and reload the page, and there we have it, store.state, and we have our quotes, which is author body ID. Awesome. So now what we want to do is we want to pre-populate our store from our server side so that we have access to it in the client and have it render before the page loads. This will allow us to do stuff like if we want to create the title of the page to be the quote, we can, because the quote actually exists when the page has been created. But if we do it with the normal Vue library, what happens is we usually create this data as the page loads, and the problem with that is that the data isn't available at the start of the load. So let's pre-populate the store. So I just want to make a few changes before I do that. I want to change this to a Nuxt link because I want to preserve the state as we go to the next page and not have to reload the entire project. We can save that and just give it a class, and we can call this the quote btn, and instead of targeting the button now, we can do dot quote btn. Save that. Styling should look the same. Let's have a look at this. Oh, the 2 should be equal to / quote and then / ID. And then to have that work, or we can just do / ID. We don't need a quote page. We can do / ID, or let's actually do a quotes page just for the sake of displaying the quotes. Quotes / ID, and then we'll have to create that page. And the way we create pages is by creating folders. So we do quotes, and then in the quotes we'll give it the actual index.view. So this is what will render when we hit quotes. And let's just do a scaffold of h1 hello, save that, and it seems to be that the button, what is going on here? So this break looks a little bit horrible. I think it's because A tags render inline, but let's add a line break here. Save that. There we go. And I actually like this design a little bit, having it overlap like that. It looks modern. So I think I'm going to leave it like that. I just might remove that text decoration. So we'll do the quote button, and we don't have button here, so we have to do dot quote button. Save that. Let's see when we hover. Refresh this. Doesn't seem to be hovering. Anyhow, that's fine. We'll leave it like that, and then it could be that the scale is still no. Okay, well, could by with that. Because it's a link, I mean a tag, pretty sure it'll still be a clickable item. So let's leave the entire scale thing because debugging is not part of this video. Let's do text decoration to remove that underline. We'll say none. Save that, and yeah, that looks pretty good. It looks a bit better in my opinion with the overlapping. So what we want to do next is what we were actually going to do is to populate the store. So there are a few ways we could do that. The first one is to populate the store when a specific page renders, or we could populate the store when the server initializes, so in the store itself. So I think the way we'll do it is that method by populating as it renders. So we'll do a few things. We need to make mutation to be able to mutate the state, and mutations will let's do set quotes, and this is just standard to make it capitalized and with what do you call that? I think it's snake case. And then this will take two. This will take the state, and this will take the payload. And the payload, what we want to do is do state state dot. We want the quotes, and then we want to set that equal to the payload. So we have to make sure that the payload we send here is a an array that has almost that type of structure, so that we can loop over it in our quotes page. So let's save that, and then the way we'll populate the store is by doing export const, and then we'll do actions, and the actions will equal some functions. And the first function we want is, this is a reserved action. You can name your actions what you want, but unless you use this one, and this one will be an asynchronous action, and we'll call it nuxtServerInit, and this runs when the server initializes, so we can populate the store and send the data through. So we can do nuxtServerInit and then that. So we do need the Axios library, and I believe when I looked at the store, when I looked at let's just clear this out, when I looked at Nuxt, the Axios is part of the store. So we can just do, I believe we can in the store itself we can do Axios. So we can do this dot Axios because we are in the store, and I believe Axios is available. So let's try that. Save our request. We want to say the response from the request would be equal to this dot $Axios dot $get, and then we pass in our request URL, and I believe that should be in my terminal. Let's just go back and find that. So because I closed down my terminal, I lost the history. I should probably set that, but I guess we can just get it again. What we want is, we want my key, which I will revoke, so it won't really help if you try and use this. Let's just close this down, and then right at the top we'll just say const API URL, just to make this available to everyone, equals string. Let's paste the key for now. Go back and look at the I think it was list quotes, yes, and then we used this one. So we will need to set a header on this. I will have to go look at the documentation on how to set the headers, but let's just set the URL for now. We'll have to separate these two. Const API key will equals this. So let's select this thing. We'll remove that and paste that in there. So now we have the URL and we have the key, and we want to make a request. So let's look at how to do that with Axios, and this would be a good time to explore Nuxt. So let's do Nuxt Axios get headers, and set headers not working, can't get response headers. This is all issues. We want to look at the options in the Axios module on axios.nuxtjs.org. So this is the base URL we could set in the Nuxt config. We have all these options. We could set a proxy, and let's find something. What's this? Proxy headers, ignore. Usage. So I'm exploring the GitHub page now, and the only thing, if I do a Control F for headers, is in this options with the post. So I believe we probably should be able to set headers as options to the GET request as well. So let's do axios.get, and then we want to use the API URL, and then we want to set some options. And these options would be headers, and the headers would be an object, and the type of header we want to set is what we have on favqs, and we'll set the up on top authorization. We'll set this header, copy, and this has to be in quotation marks, and then we'll set the value to this entire thing. Token would equal the API key. And this will also have to be, let's do backticks and then do this as a literal and erase that, go back in there, API key equals that. So let's just see if this can fit. Okay, so the headers would be authorization, token equals API key, and we'll get the response from that. So let's say we have to await that as well, because this is an asynchronous action. We'll do await that to get the response, and then we'll do the data. Let's do const data would equal the response. Usually it's in the .data, and we want the quotes field. Save that, and then let's just console.log the data, see what's up. So Nuxt standards is not to add semicolons, but I'm so used to it. So let's just put that up there and put that down there, and then save that. And we can now reload the page and inspect our terminal in here, see what happens. Cannot read property quotes of undefined. So our response might be wrong, or we might be accessing the wrong property. So let's just try again. Let's see what, let's just console.log the response for now, see what we get. Maybe we get an error, unauthorized or something like that. Let's refresh, and we get a, actually we do get all of the quotes. So the object would look like, let's just go down here. Should probably do this in Postman to have a better rendering of this stuff, but it's fine, we'll be quick. So what we got back is the response, and I think we still, are we logging anything else? No. Okay, so the response has, should have a, oh, that's the old thing. So here we go. We have responses page 1 and then quotes. So it's just response.quotes. I don't think it's response.data.quotes. So let's just do this, and instead of data, we'll make it a bit more clearer. We'll say quotes, and we'll say response.quotes. Save that and refresh, see what's up. So now we're logging it on the server side first, and I believe if we inspect, we should, oh, we haven't set it yet, but let's do that to see what that's like. But we get all the quotes. So the things we're interested in, the quotes, are the ID. We're interested in maybe the, we don't really need the URL. We just need the ID, the author, and the body. I think that'll be enough. So let's set the, let's just set the entire objects or the entire thing in the quotes, and then we'll pass that in the index file itself in the quotes folder. So the way we'll set that is we'll have to commit this mutation to state. So in order to commit, we'll have to bring in commit from the context, and we'll say commit, and then the name we want to commit is that set quotes mutation, and we want to send it the payload that would be the quotes. And then we could save that, and so now state.quotes should equal payload, and we should have it available. But instead of looking at it in the console, let's just render it on our quotes page for now. So let's go to quotes. It will probably look ugly for now, but it's fine. We'll do a let's just do a section to wrap everything in one element. We'll do a UL and then an ally, and then each ally will be, let's first make it a quote and then save that. So what we want to do is when this component renders, we want to set a computed property, and we could use Vuex map getters, but we only really need to get one thing, so we could just say computed needs to be that, and we could say quotes. What we want to do is we want to access this dot store, so we want to return this dot store dot getters, and the getter we want to use is the quotes getter. So we could also say dot quotes, but I kind of like the syntax, because if you have namespacing, you'll do something like the namespace and then the getter. But for now, we'll do just the, what is it called, quotes. We'll do quotes. Save that, and then in here we want to loop this, so we'll say v4 equals quote in quotes, and we'll say the key, and we need to make that binded, and the key should be the quote dot id. So this should be a what do you call it, like a unique key for everything, otherwise we'll get an error, but we'll see what happens. Let's save that, and instead of rendering the quote, we want to render the quote dot body. So let's just wrap that again so that we can see what's going on, and save that, and then try to access quotes. Let's go to /quotes. So what's happening now is the server's making the request, it's populating the store, and it hasn't rendered anything. So let's look at the store, and in the store we'll see there we'll see the getters, and we have quotes, and it's undefined. So this should not be undefined. We need to go back and check that out. So getters quotes will take the state, and it's a function, and it will return state.quotes. And if we have a look at the state, we'll see that state.quotes is undefined. So something is not being set correctly. So let's have a look. So set quotes with the payload. The payload would be the quotes we received from responsive quotes, and we await that. So we should maybe see what this is, console.log the quotes. See what's going on there. Open the server side, reload this, making the request, and we get undefined this time because I have misspelled quotes. Great, so let's save that and reload, and there we go. We have all the random quotes that we wanted. I've dealt with many crises in my life, but few will ever happen. It's so crowded, nobody goes there 90% of the game. So this doesn't seem like the love quotes that we requested, and that's because we have funny. So let's just do love, save that, and reload the page. Takes a while to populate the store, and there we go. The older you get, the fewer things you really love. Where there is love, there is life. So it does seem like they do have HTML in some of these sometimes, like this break tag over here. So just to incorporate or to check for that, we can dangerously plug in that HTML, but this isn't always a good idea because this could, if you get your code from an untrusted API, I'm pretty sure Vue does some parsing and stuff, but we should always be careful when setting HTML. So instead of um, doing this, we can say that the vhtml should equal, and we need to bind that. Oh no, we don't. We can just say vhtml should be the quote dot body and save that. So we don't have to put anything in here now. And I don't know if we can do self-closing tags in Vue. I know that's sort of recommended in React. So let's try that. Refresh, populate the store, get the quotes, and now we have a line break here. So it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. There is a fountain of youth. It's in your mind. Talents, the creativity bring to life, and the lives of people you love. When you learn to tap the source, you will truly have defeated age. And then one last one. Even though I love solar and love wind like most people do, I like the renewable sources. They alone are not going to get me. Okay, so I just read that in some sort of love voice, but just because it had love in there doesn't mean it was sort of this guy really loves his renewable resources. So yeah, blew it. Let's do the ID page. So before we do that, let's just give this page a little bit of styles. Instead of a self-closing ally, we'll make it an actual ally, and then we'll add an A tag in there. And this A tag should actually be a Nuxt link to be able to go to that quote. And then Nuxt link here. And then instead of href, we want, let me just close this down. We want the to property, and we want to go to to/quotes. And then what we want to do here is do some, let's just do backticks. Maybe this will work. And then instead of quotes, we want to do, oh, we can't do backticks. Let's just do this, and then we can do single ticks, and then plus. Oh wait, what we can do is actually set it to a dynamic property. Sorry, I always get confused with all these ticks and backticks and apostrophes and stuff. So let's do, now we can do single ticks, and we want to go to slash quotes and slash, and then we want to go, we want to add plus the quote dot id. So at the moment, when we go to the slash page, where do I, yeah, so when we go to the quotes, we don't have an ID, so let's create that quickly. So we have to save this folder as _id to make it dynamic, and new just index.view again. So in this dynamic folder, I'll create a view template, and for now I'll just say h1 I'm a quote. So what this does is, doesn't matter what we append to this here, we'll get the I am a quote page. So we can do any single, I mean any you can even do numbers. I don't think the dot is valid. Oh, it is. But okay, so we can do numbers or whatever. So what we want to do is we want to send in the quote ID with the URL. And then when we do that, we want to fetch that specific quote ID from the store and show all its details over here. So what we'll do is we're going to, first of all, we're sending it to the, we don't need to log the store.state anymore. So we can just, can actually remove this entire, no, we'll just remove this to keep it a component, and we don't have to import Axios here. So we'll save that, and then for the quote page, what we do is when we click Nuxt link to quotes plus quote.id, we get that ID from this quote that we generate in the loop. So to be able to go to that, so when we go back to the quotes, and if we click on any of these quotes, they should take us to the specific ID on top here. So if we click there, has this set itself yet? Let's inspect. So we have an error. The client-side rendered virtual DOM is not matching the server, so let's refresh this. What do we have? We have the parent. Okay, so it's the inner HTML thing that we're doing. So let's just leave it as we can actually just move this maybe to the Nuxt link content. So let's X this out. Maybe that's what's going on, because we were rendering the Nuxt link and now we sort of replaced it with a quote.body. So let's see what happens if we do that. Okay, so now we get the links, and if we inspect and reload, there's no conflict from the server and the client side. So let's click on one of these. It should generate an ID on there, and we go to 423. At the moment it's just showing I'm a quote because we're not finding that in the store, but if we go back, we have for every quote we have an ID. So let's refresh that, and now in the ID page we can find that quote again and render it. It's because this data is being sent from the server side, we now can use it to with JavaScript populate this. So if we so let's just write that code first, and then I'll explain. So let's create a div with the ID of quote card, and then we'll have a title. So let's just do an h1, and then the title will be in there, and then below that we'll have the author. So we'll do a p tag author, and below that we'll have an hr to separate stuff a little bit, have another p tag, and have the body. So what we want to do is, when this page gets created, we want to access the router parameters and see what that number is, and then we want to go to the store and fetch that. So let's do this by, we can do, let's see if we can access the router. So we'll do mounted, and as soon as this is mounted, so when we start or mount the page, we want to get the route, want to match it to the store, and get that specific ID from the store. So let's do const, let's do param equals this dot $ route dot params, and because we named this file folder ID, the param will be an ID. So we'll do ID, and then we want to find the store item that matches that ID. So first we want to make sure, okay, let's just find that item. We can do const store, or let's just say post, maybe quote equals this dot store, and then what we want to do is filter that. So we can do this dot store dot, oh, let's just find the quotes first. So let's, when we create this computed property, so we do computed so that we have the quotes here, and we'll do quotes, and then we'll return this dot store dot getters, and we want the quotes. So that will come from the store. Computed is a object, not a function, and then we'll return that. So now that we have this dot quotes, we can say that this dot quotes, so let's just send the current quote, const quote equals this dot quotes, and then what we want to do is find the index of that quote. And because this is an array of objects, we'll have to access a property on an object, and a cool way to do this is either by filtering, filter with the JavaScript dot filter, and what that does is it filters things out of an array. But instead of that, I'm going to do this dot quotes dot find index. So we'll find the index, and then so we'll have to go at the index where the index is equal. So I'll explain this as I go. So we'll do this dot quotes at the index where this dot quotes dot find index, and then what we want to do is set the it takes a function. So at the moment we are looking at our quotes array, and we want to find the index where this dot quotes, so we're finding the index in there where something equals something. So we're going to say x just to give it a random parameter, and x is the current quote that is being looked at, and then we want to say the x.id should be equal to the param, and that will return the quote. So let's console.log that quote and see if that worked. Save that, and let's go to the page, and what we should do now is visit a quote. Okay, so we get the markup. If we inspect that, we should okay, so we get undefined, which means we aren't getting the quote that we need. Let's see if the quotes exist. So let's just say console.log quotes. I mean this dot quotes, and we'll comment this out for now. Save that, reload the page, inspect, and we do have the quotes. It is in our store, so that is a good thing. So it must be our quote logic that we have going on here. So let's just see if param exists, because I might have screwed up that logic as well. Inspect that. So we do have the param, that is correct. And is the type, does the post have an ID? Yes, the type is a number. I think the param is a string, and that might be why it's not working, because we used, let's just wrap this with Alt 0, not Control 0. So we use triple equals, and x.id is a number and param is a string. So we could either do toString or we can do parse int. So I'm going to use toString. x.id dot toString is equal to param, and this is just a line break, it's not space or anything, because I'm wrapping the code. And now we can console log that quote. Let's just delete that, save, reload, inspect, and we should get a quote. And there we go, we do have it. We have the author, we have the body, we have the dialogue, downvotes, upvotes, whatever, all those things. But what we really care about is the author, the body, and we already used the ID, so we just really want the author and the body. So what we'll do is we'll move this from the mounted to the computed. So all we have to do is delete that, and then we'll say, let's just create another one. Well, we actually don't need to, because we don't need to have yeah, let's just do that, just to be a bit more separated in our code. What have I done? Okay, so quotes, and then we want the single quote as well, and that will be a function, and we need a comma. And for the single quote, we'll do all this stuff. And the param is correct. The quote would be this dot quotes at this dot. So this dot quotes would be this quotes. And then what, instead of console.logging the quote, we want to return the quote to our component. And then we want to use that. We want to say, instead of title, we want to use the quote dot. So there isn't really a title. We could use yeah, let's just use author and body. So let's do X that out, and we can do author, and for the body we can do quote dot body. Save that, and there we have it. So if we go back, every quote we visit now will have the specific quotes author, and we'll have the body. So let's just maybe style these two pages just a little bit, not too much, but just to have something to look at. Let's save that. And just to have a look at it, if we reload this page, what happens is the nuxtServerInit populates the store and the store populates the page. So this is actually server-side rendered. If we view the source, skip all the CSS and stuff, this is all the quotes. So the entire store's quotes is being plugged into the page. So this might be an issue if you care about the size. I mean, if there's millions of quotes, you don't really want to do this. In that case, you might want to check if the API has a limit. So you can say fetch 1 or 2 or 3, or you can save your you can create your own API that generates just the amount of quotes you need by ID. But this looks like a lot of text, but it's not really that much. But the thing that we want to see is that this has been statically rendered by the server, and it's server-side rendered true, and we actually have the text inside of the items. The p tag, where is the love, all those are actually statically rendered into the page. So when crawlers index this page, they'll see, oh, this is a title, and we can actually use that in the head as well. And so let's just demonstrate that maybe with the ID. Instead of by computed, we can do head, and the head is a function that would return an object, and then we'll do title. So this sets the head like the meta properties in the head. So let's just do this dot quote dot author, and then let's do something like plus, and then we'll do this, and we'll add a pipe, and we'll say plus this dot quote dot body. And not to make it too long, we'll do substring. We'll start from 0, and we'll make it about 25 characters long, and say that we could make this the description of the page as well. But let's save that, close that down, refresh the page, and you could see it's making the title that. So let's add some space here, save that. And if we look at the page source, if we go to the head, we'll see that the title is actually statically generated by the server. So let's close that and look at the new one. We have to reload this. And there it is, Mahatma Gandhi, where there is love there, dot dot dot. We could add a dot 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 there to make it plus dot dot dot. Inspect. Oh no, not inspect. We need the source title, where there is love there is. Refresh this page first to get it from the server. Inspect. Yeah. Mahatma Gandhi, where there is love there, dot dot dot. So that is the power of SSR. We can actually set our SEO and stuff like that. So let's maybe add, not a lot, but just a few styles here. Let's do what do we have up here? We have the quote card. That's hashtag quote card, and we want to do the width should be 70%. The border 1 pixel. No, let's do 0.5 pixels, solid and gray, and then we add a box shadow of 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 3 pixels, RGBA, and we'll set that alpha value again. Save that, and now we have that. So let's do a bit of padding, and we'll do 1.5 em, and we'll set that in the center. So we'll do margin 0 auto, and we'll set some, actually let's do margin 1.5 em and then auto. So now we have a nice little quote, and we could do something like share this quote with someone. So let's have a look at WhatsApp. Maybe WhatsApp share number. I think they have a URL. Not how to share my number. So we have WhatsApp share buttons. If this is going to take too long, I'm not going to do it, but it's worth having a quick look. So now maybe you can send this to your lover. Looks like we need meta tags and all that, but I'm pretty sure they just have like a mobile link where the URL has a parameter that equals the number or something like that, and then you can send it. But whatever, so you can just copy and paste this link and send it to your lover, and you'll get this Mahatma Gandhi quote. And let's do the same styles for the quotes on the page here. We'll do style, paste that, and we can do actually the exact same thing. Save that and indent that, and we want to repeat this thing, so we can do v4 equals quote in quotes, and we want to do the key equals the quote.id, and we also want to make sure they're spaced and make this clickable. So this entire div should be clickable. So we'll do add click. We'll use the router for this. We'll do $router dot push. So this will just push it into the router, and we want to go to quotes, and we want to append that ID. So quote.id. So let's see if that works. Save, go back to quotes, and there we have all our quotes. Looks nice and neat. We even have a Charlie Sheen quote. I think my passion is misrepresented as anger sometimes, and I don't think people are ready for the message that I'm delivering. I'm delivering with a sense of violent love. So probably keep your love soft and nurtured and kind. And then we had an error there because the quotes was, I didn't add the slash, so let's refresh that. So now when we click on any of these cards, we should go to that specific quote. So not very useful when you think about it, because we already have all the quotes here, but it does display the usage of the Nuxt SSR. So now to the final step of this is to host this up. To host this up, there's a few steps that we have to do. First of all, we could set some settings in our Nuxt config that allows us to use build settings. So we could use build directory to change where we build this to, and we can change where the static assets gets built to in case we want to serve it with a cache or something like that. But I'm going to leave that for you to go research. Just go to the Nuxt.js docs and look at the different build methods and stuff. Today I'm just going to do the basic build and hosting. So to build your application, what you want to do is you want to let's just close this up on the side. You want to go to your terminal, kill this development operation, clear that out, and to build it, the only thing you have to do is npm run build. And what this will do is it's going to compile all the code and make it so that you can host it up to the server or platform of your choice. So this is a Node.js application, and you will need to use a service that allows you to run Node servers on their platform. Two of my favorite is Now and Heroku. You could use Google Cloud Platform, you could use pretty much anything you like, but I am a paid supporter of Heroku, and I really love Now for quick prototypes and hosting, and you can actually pay them or even use their free system to host your small applications up until a certain amount of size and stuff. So what you want to do to do that, so what happened now is we generated these assets, and they were generated in this .nuxt file. We don't have to really touch anything in here. If we have a git ignore, we need to remove that, because we need to. So if you push to a Roku, you will need to remove your .nuxt from your git ignore, because we need to push that to Heroku, and Heroku will need the Nuxt. It doesn't need the node modules because it will build the node modules itself, but it will need the Nuxt. And I think now we'll probably build the node modules as well. So let's just be safe and remove the .nuxt from this file. It should be here. Let's just comment it out for now. And if you push this up to your GitHub, you would want to git ignore that and your node modules to not make it a very big commit. And if you have any environment variables like my API key, you would want to enter that into. So let's actually demonstrate how we would do that with now. So let's create a env file. So we'll do .env, and then what you'll do in here is you'll just set your API key here equals, and then go to the, where did we have that? I think in the main page we have our request. Oh no, it's in the store. Let's go to the store index, find our API key, remove just the plain text, not the quotation marks, and paste that just like that. API key equals that. And what you'll need something to process that. So first of all, we'll do process.env._API key, and we'll need to set this on our server side as well. So this is just so that we can hide it from our GitHub repository, but we'll need a package to read that locally. So let's just do that quickly. We need to run npm install .env, and then in our nuxt.config.json we just want to say const we just want to require it. We don't even need to give it a name. We just require .env, and then we just say .config, just like that. And this will allow us to use that process.env in our files. So it is installed. We'll clear that out and look at our env file. That's fine. And if we run this application now, it should still work with this process.env.api key. So the .env is commented out. It won't be committed to your repository. Your key will be safe. Another thing is that if we host it on now. So first of all, let's go to now.sh. I think it's Zeit. I think it's this one, Zeit.co now. And then what you want to do is you want to log in with your GitHub or anything like that, and have your account created. But you can also download the now command line tool by saying npm i-g now. And when you do that, it's going to install now globally on your computer. So I already have it. And first of all, I'm just going to log out to show you how to authenticate on your computer. I'm logged out now, and to check who you are, you can say now who am I, and blah blah blah, author is invalid, no token, so we need to log in. The way we do that is say now and then log in after you've created your account on now, and you say log in into your email. I'm gonna blank this out, but I'll enter my email here, and then enter. And then what it does is it will send you an email to your email address, and then you have to go to your email to confirm that. So I'm gonna quickly do that. So now I have confirmed my email address, and if you say now who am I, you should have your email address show up there. But now that you have that, you can simply do a command called now. So you have to be in the repository where you are, and every single one of these files need to be uploaded to now for the server to run. So what we need to do is we just say now, and we don't need to specify anything because we are in the same folder that we want to upload. So let's just do now and enter. Your project is missing a now.json file. You're using an old version of now and deploying under my email using Valentines quotes. Your deployment code logs will publicly accessible because you're subscribed to the OSS plan. That's fine. If you don't want that to happen, you need to get an account, and then let's just proceed. You can use now public to upgrade your plan, and to skip this problem, use, and yeah, okay, cool. So it's uploading all the files, sync the files, and using Node.js 8.11.3, we have the link https Valentines quotes, and that's our link. It's building the page. So now what it's doing is it's running that npm run start and npm run. I believe it runs npm run start as its default command, and what that does is it will set it into production mode and it will run server index.js. And before you do that, you'll have to build your Nuxt stuff. And we will have an error now as well because we never set our environment variable. So we'll have to rebuild this in a moment. While this is running, you can actually have a look. If you control click on the link that they give you, it will send you to the progress of your actual upload. So at the moment it's building and it should finish anytime soon. So you can see now the build process is running npm install to install all the dependencies, and there's the logs from the install. We're running nuxt build to build our application. It's initialized, the files are generated, we are compiling, everything is looking good so far, waiting, and it looks like the server is now listening on localhost on that machine, and they will be porting that to the link. So let's have a look at the link again. Go up and click on our link. The loading might actually also fail because the server does not have, because we're doing Nuxt init server, and I'm probably sure. Let's have a look if we can see in the logs. Let's go. Can we go back? So if we look at the logs, we'll say request failed, code for 1, which means not authorized because we don't have a key. So let's quickly set that key as an environment variable. Let's clear this out and redo the process. So when we have a look at the now docs, we can see that we can send a or set a deployment secret by saying now secret add. We can do API, or we'll just do it a lowercase API-key, and this will equal to our environment variable API key. Copy that and paste that in there. So now it creates the secret, but the secret isn't the environment variable. We can just use the secret, so we can do that. So it should set that secret on our account. Success, secret API key added on my account. And now what we want to do is deploy with the environment variable. So what we can do is now and then -e will add an environment variable, and we want to make sure we use API_key because that's what we use in our code, and we have to set that, I think, equals to the we can use at. So we've saved our secret, we can use at API key. We don't have to type our secret again. So now API key equals the at API key, and let's do that. Let's see what happens. Deploying using that project. Yes, please. Should go quicker. I think they do cache online. They just check what changed, but we'll have a look at it. Let's open this link to see the build process. So it is listening on localhost 3000, which means that we should be able to access the URL now. Oh, that's the old link. We have a new link now, so let's remove that and enter again. And our image is being rendered. If we view page source, we have all our static content in there being server side rendered. If we get a random quote, we should have a list now. It might take a little bit long. Oh, it takes us to quote ID, so we don't really want that. We want quotes. Enter. So we could fix that on the client side, but I'm not going to do that for now. Then we have all our quotes being sent by the server. If we inspect, we can see them. We can actually view page source. We can see them being statically added, and if we click on one of them, it should take us to the quote itself. So that's very cool. The only bug we have is that if we click this, it goes to /ID because I made a mistake with the path, but I'm not going to re-upload that because of that now. Yeah, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. That is just a quick rundown on Nuxt.js SSR and how to host it with Now, a nice little Valentines app. I really hope you enjoyed it and that you will leave a like if you want to, and maybe share this video or subscribe. If you do feel like supporting the channel, you can go to my website, kaizenmedia.co.za/donate, and leave a tip. You have to, if you do decide to do it, it has to be a round USD number, and it will convert to South African Rand, but not necessary. By liking or subscribing, you do support the channel more than enough, and I really appreciate that. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay tuned for that course on full stack web development. Peace out.